What is rationalism? I'll be more precise. In this week's Torah portion, Tavo, we have this epic scene. Moses tells us that the Israelites are going to split up into two tribes, half on one mountain, Grizim, half on the other mountain, Eival, the mountain of curse, mountain of blessing, right? The tribes symbolize blessings and curses. The Levites are down in the valley, right? This is, of course, our big debate with the Samaritans, or their debate with us, but in any event, the Levites are down in the valley, and we are told, the text tells us, that the Levites say Bekol Ram, right, in a loud voice, and that each and every one of the Israelites heard what they said. Now, Rabbi Raphael, right, we're thinking about what rationalism means here, right, as a hypothetical question, because this is the way Rabbi Raphael is perceived as a rationalist, okay? He quotes a lot of Jewish philosophy, and so on and so forth, and so we wonder, what we're doing with this, and I found a very interesting bit that I'll sort of leave open for all of us to try and understand in our own way. So Rabbi Raphael asks, right, a rationalist question. He says, the Levites are down in the valley. Now, any one of us who have been to Judea and Samaria, you've seen the hilltops. How could someone at the bottom of the valley, no matter how, high-pitched your voice is, how could the tribes at the end of the mountains possibly have heard every single letter and vowel? He says it's incomprehensible. He says it's not possible. Naturally, he says to us, what happens naturally? Sound dwindles down, it decreases, and the tribes at the end couldn't possibly hear. So what does he say? He says, V'nireh shebederech skula. Skula is a very interesting word. He says, there must have been something very special going on here, very unique. And what was this uniqueness, he says? He says, HaLeviim mashmiim lemata ba'emek, right? The Leviim are down in the valley, and they're speaking in a sort of, saying what they have to say. V'Yisrael lemal, and the Israelites are up above on the mountains. Umin hashamayim, and from the heavens, hashmiya kolam lemerachok. The heavens spread what the Levites had to say, and this is how each and every one of the Israelites heard. Now, I think there are two ways of understanding this, and it all depends on how we view Rabbi Raphael. One way of understanding this is saying it was an echo. It was this giant echo. He's a rationalist. There's another way of understanding this, and this is that there was divine help, and then that this is beyond. Anyway, that's one cute thing. Since we're talking about Rabbi Raphael, I'll add another cute little kvetch, something about his personality. So another thing we have in this Torah portion is the tiths, right? The maaser that we give, the confession, right? We bring the tith in the third year, and we then have this confession. It's not a bad confession like on Yom Kippur. It's a good confession where we confess of having done good things, of giving tiths to whoever needs. And then he says, I read in Abarvanel, right? We all know Abarvanel, this giant. He says, I read in Abarvanel that he commentates, he says that this confession of the tith is to do with the tith for the poor, Maser Ani. And he says this goes against everything that we know, the halacha from Moshe and Har Sinai. And he says, Rashi got it spot on. I don't know what Abarvanel's talking about, that he says it's, the tith for the poor. And then he says, this whole bit that Abarvanel wrote should be put in gniza, should be thrown away because it's a complete lie. And then he goes to prove him wrong. Now, of course, without bringing this to bash Abarvanel, Abarvanel is a giant. The point is, it comes to show something about Rabbi Raphael's integrity and the importance of fighting and battling, no matter who this giant is. If you think something differently, you think the truth is in a different place, then you go out and say it regardless of who the title, who the person is that wrote it. And that's something absolutely fascinating and I think quite rare when we think about big rabbinic figures, especially a Dayan like Rabbi Raphael. Thoughts on the Torah portion of Tavo and rationalism and Rabbi Raphael's integrity. Shabbat Shalom.